Hi, and welcome to the Book Bar, where everything bookish is on the menu. I am Anjanette Barr, and today we are going to talk about my reading goals for 2021. This is Totoro, and I imagine that he's not going to stay with us for very long, but he did find his way into the studio before I was able to kick him out, so... Okay, I lost him already. Oh well. So I have some proper black English breakfast tea to go over my goals for 2021, and I'd love for you to share your own goals in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more information about books and reading and my personal reading achievements this year. So if you didn't see my last video about my 2020 reading experience, make sure that you watch that. I read a total of 170 books in 2020. So I did say in that video that I do not intend to try and read that many this year. I read all of those books, not all of them. I read a lot of those books because I was paid to read them. So I promised that I would share with you what I do plan on doing for 2021, this new year that we have just begun. So let's get to it. I set 3 goals for myself this year for 2021. Some years I've gone through and made a list of different categories that I want to read from or participated in different challenges. And this year I kept it pretty simple. And I have made 3 goals. The first of which is that I want to read at least 50 books. So obviously I read 170 last year. I know I can read 50 books, but 170 was too many to enjoy them the way I want to enjoy them. So 50 books is my goal. I think I'll surpass it, but there have absolutely been many years when I didn't read that many. I'm in the habit of reading now, so I don't think I'll have any trouble. And I am not going to make myself read particular books in any order, but I did set a goal number 2, not to buy any more physical books. So I am limiting myself to what I can read based on either reading ebooks or reading what I physically have. And I have put on this beautiful shelf here, to try and keep myself accountable, 55, I think, books that I own, many of which I bought last year. Last year was definitely a book therapy year. I purchased books. I got a lot of free books in the beginning part of the year and the previous year, 2019. I got a lot of books off of the free shelf at our Friends of the Library bookstore. It just seems like a lot of classics, or say hardcover books without dust jackets, or even just books that are kind of niche that I or even just books that I am interested in that other people aren't, land there on that free shelf. And so sometimes if I was out and about, I would just stop by and not even go into the store and just check out the free shelf. So I ended up getting or purchasing a lot of physical books last year, to the point where even I feel like it's too many. So I chose some of the ones that I'm most excited about. There are many, many more floating around the house. And I put them on these 2 shelves, and I'm going to try to grab from these 2 shelves. I have already failed at the shelf goal, so I'm not even including that in my 1, 2, 3 for 2021, because initially I thought I'm only going to read these 50 books. And then like week 2 of January, a friend said, "Oh, listen to this podcast, it's so great." And the podcast was about a book that I realized I had on my shelves, and I was like, well, now I've got to read that one. So I read it. So I'll tell you about that book in a second. So I am making the goal, 1, to read 50 books, 2, to not purchase any any physical books. So if there's a book that comes out this year, there will be, that I'm very excited about, and I feel like I need to pre-order it, or I just feel like I need it because it's on sale, then I'm going to commit to buying the ebook version. I'm going to try not to purchase too many ebooks either, because truth be told, I'm also overwhelmed by the number of ebooks that I already own. My Kindle has 1,500 unread books on it, but I am leaving that option for myself because I really do like to support authors by pre-ordering their books that I know I'm going to read anyway. If I'm going to read them at some point, then I'll get them to have on hand, and I know that those pre-order sales go a long way to show those authors' publishers or that author's audience that their readers have faith in them. So goal number 3 might seem silly, and it should be easy to attain, but I'm bad enough at it that I haven't very often, so I set it as a goal. I am going to try to DNF a book, or more than one book. DNF means do not finish, or did not finish. And I have a really hard time putting a book down and committing to just not finishing it if I don't like it. I have a tendency to just push through and read books whether I like them or not, because I know that there's merit in reading difficult things, in reading books that I'm not on the surface very interested in, and there's even merit in reading really poorly written books, because as a writer and as a future literary agent, I really do need to be able to identify the patterns that make books less readable, less valuable in the scope of history. But honestly, there are some books on my Goodreads currently reading list that have been there for years and years, and I probably will finish them, and I'm not going to DNF those because that would be kind of cheating. I probably will finish all of those at some point. It's just things like a nonfiction book that I was more interested in at the time, but it was interesting enough that I do think I should finish it. Like one of them I sent back to the library, but I can always check it out again, right? Just things like that where it's like, I really do want to read this, but I am not in the mood for it or whatever, and then it gets put away for a while. I think I have like 15 or more of those on my Goodreads list, but I put them on there because I can't commit to just closing them and saying, I gave it a go, I'm not going to read it anymore. It's kind of a ridiculous problem to have. I know some of you don't have that problem, and maybe even have the opposite problem of sticking with books that don't just grab you and keep you. Yeah, so I'm going to try one of these books that I read. If I am just not feeling it, I'm going to try putting it down and not picking it back up, and perhaps even getting rid of it. So those are my 3 goals. So I wanted to show you a little bit about what I've read so far. We are still in January. I've read 3 books, and also I'm looking at my notes down on the floor, sorry. And also I want to tell you where you can find me so that you can follow my reviews and everything else that's not on YouTube. So do follow me on Instagram. I will be putting just some snippets as I read and some quotes that I like. And then follow me on Goodreads. I don't always put reviews that are very long, and I do mark if there's spoilers, but I always do a star rating, and then you can at least see how many I've read for the year. And here on my YouTube channel, I'm going to be just choosing some of the highlights of the year and doing some more in-depth reviews. So I have one already planned coming up for the first book that I read this year, which was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So let's talk a little bit about these that are sitting over here next to me that I've already finished. And I'll talk about this here in a second too. Okay, so I have finished 3 books so far, and the very first one that I finished was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and my Instagram followers helped me choose which one I would read first, and they chose well. So there's so much to say about this book that it's going to get its own video very soon, so make sure you are subscribed so that you can see that video. And then I also ended up finishing this book, Are Women Human? And it's by Dorothy Sayers, and it's actually a collection of essays that she wrote slash gave. The first one is a talk that she gave in 1938 about women and our roles and gender roles in general. And it was fascinating, it was wonderful, it was very short. And then I listened to, at the recommendation of my friend, the Literary Life podcast, which I will link in the description, where they just kind of hashed out their thoughts on it, and they gave me even more insight. And it was just such an interesting conversation that I even bored my husband. He wasn't bored, but I basically recapped the entire thing to my husband, so he's practically read it at this point as well. That was a really good impulse grab, and it's very short, so it didn't take much time. And then this one, Crossbows and Crucifixes, I just finished reading to my children. It was a surprisingly intriguing and well-written child, I would say middle grade or older, children's historical fiction set in the time of Queen Elizabeth and persecution of Catholics under her reign. It follows a young man as he helps fellow Catholics hide priests as they travel around the country, England, says set in 1585, and try and avoid the pursuivants who are killing, imprisoning, fining, and otherwise Catholics in the name of Queen Elizabeth. And it was detailed and exciting. And the only critique that I would have is that it was a little graphic at times. Obviously, all of this was terribly, emotional and dangerous and graphic as understanding. But there were a few battle scenes that we went. So I read this to my 8 and my 10-year-old, and I would say if I had pre-read this book, I would have saved it for my 10-year-old and older. So that was my only critique. I didn't really do any research on this before, so that was my fault. But yeah, 4 stars, totally interesting. So that's this year so far, and I just wanted to show you really fast my reading journal, which is so amazing. And also make sure to look in the description below, because there is a code for 20% off of this reading journal. So my friend Elsie created this book lover's companion that is available on her website, teaandinksociety.com. And it has 2 cover options, and I chose the green one. I am definitely a green girl. And then 2 size options. So I chose the larger size so that I had lots of journaling room, but there's also the half size. So I actually have the other cover option on the back just so that I could show you guys. But I chose to bind this myself with a spiral binder, but you could do any kind of binding. You could even just put it in a 3-ring binder. Or if you have a different system for binding, then you could do whatever. She has lots of suggestions on her website. So when you purchase it, she walks you through, with links and different things you can buy to use to bind, including these cute dividers that just have some subtle designs on them. So I used the dividers she suggested, and I tabbed this with all the different categories, and I'm using this to document what I read in 2021, and I'm going to do a dedicated video on all the helps that I use for planning and for keeping track of my reading, because I love journals and journaling and all those things, and reading is a super fun thing to keep track of in physical form. I do some online digital record keeping like on Goodreads, but a lot of it is physical. So I haven't done a lot in here so far, but I'm very excited about the large format and the fact that I have lots of opportunities for recording all of the things I want to remember about each book, so that then I can put them in my commonplace book, which I will explain in the next video about record keeping as well. So while you're waiting for that video, do just go to her website and check this out and use my code for 20% off. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'd love to know what you plan on reading in 2021. So leave me a comment, tell me what you're reading and what's in your cup. Cat hair. Got all of the getting the cat hair off of me. Oh my gosh, another cat hair. cat was such a bad idea.